There we go. Oh, look at that, my camera's not straight. Wait a minute, I'll just change the camera angle because my bench is sticking up on this end. I'll do it in a minute. G'day, Andy. Hang on there, come on, I've got that coming back at me. My bench is sticking up on this end. I'll do it in a minute. G'day, Andy. There you go. Fix that one. Oh, I thought everything was really good, but anyway. G'day, Andy. G'day, Trevor. G'day, Woodchuck. G'day, Trevor again. So, all right, I'll just, what have I got to go? This end's got to come down. So I'll just wobble that a bit and then we'll be into it. Hey, I don't know about where you're living, but I tell you what, she was cold this morning. Oh, dear, oh dear. It was frosty. Oh, go away. There we go, all right. Let me just... How's that? That look good? Oh, let me have a look, see. Since I've changed all this around, it's not as easy to get the camera angle I want. No, that's looking good. I'm happy with that. I'm there at that vice. I'm over here, and I'm standing in the middle. Where's the middle? No, I've got to move that a little bit. Oh, so today anyway, I thought we'd do some, what do you call it? Chopping board. How's that? I'll be organised one of these days, but where's the fun in that? Honestly, I love it. Anyway, I'm Steve Hay. This is the wonderful world of Carbotech, woodworking at Carbotech. And today, as I said, we're going to make a pinstripe chopping board. Not just a normal chopping board because they can be a bit boring, but I thought we'll do a pinstripe one. So I'll let you into a couple of little, how come that's gone blue? That's better. A couple of little secrets and tips that I've found with making chopping boards, just to push them from the ordinary into the extraordinary and make them a little bit nicer. So we'll see. Lovely and warm there, Steve. Well, I don't know, Andy, where you are, you might think 18 degrees is warm. What's the temperature then? I bet you it's cold up there too, Trev. And yes, yeah, Woodchuck, it'll be cool over in WA. Whew. I haven't been there for years. I used to love it over there. All right, so what are we getting up to? Oh, right, this is one that I knocked up yesterday. I did a couple, and to me, it's boring. It really is. Let me turn it. Which camera am I on? That one there. It's nice, but just doesn't have much zing to it, as far as I'm concerned. But what I did do, which was a nice, so that's it, boring. It's a Blackwood one. What I did do that I was going to cut off, and then I thought, oh, I like that. I'm going to leave the natural edges on there. I'll clean that up a bit, that daggy bit there, but the sander will clean that up. And what I was doing was cutting all the natural edges off so I could get nice square pieces for a board. And this morning when I chopped that through the thickness there, I thought, oh, that looks nice, so I'm going to keep that. So that's something to keep in mind down the track. If you're going to do chopping boards, you want to do one with pinstripe, we'll get onto that in a tick. Excuse me, but if you want to do something that is a little bit natural edge, keep the offcuts and put them on the outside. There's a couple other things I'll show you what to do down the track, but in the meantime, let's get cracking with pinstripes. Now, if you are buying your timber from a timber yard and it's DAR, or you're buying it from Carbotech, and there's DAR, which stands for dressed all round. In other words, it's nice and flat and nice and square. One of these steps that I'm going to do, you most likely won't have to do. My timber actually comes from lumber, which I've got out in the yard, and they're big boards, and they've been out there for several years, so as you can imagine, they're not even rough sawn, they're just slabs. So I have to cut them, and then I have to square them, then I have to shoot them square, then I have to dress them, and then I can work from there. So we'll go over to the saw table in a little bit, and I'll start ripping to size, and you'll notice some of the pieces have a lot of imperfections and cracks and what have you in them, which I don't use. But if you're buying your timber already dressed, obviously you're not going to buy timber that's got shakes and splits and knots and what have you in it, so you might not have to do that. But I'll take you over to the saw shortly. G'day, Chad, how are you? And Jared, good morning. Hey, Tracy, that's my lovely, lovely granddaughter, Maddie. Hello, Maddie. Mwah. Kisses to you. And all right, Tracy, you can have one too. It's nice when the family drop in. Anyway, the glue I'm using is Type Bond 2. A lot of times I get asked, why don't you use Type Bond 3, which is that. But the simple answer is, when I was talking to the good people in Type Bond in South Australia, Andrew, he said this was the best for chopping boards. This is the best for outside applications. So those of you that know me for a while or follow my other channel, I make beehives, and I use the 3 in beehives because they're out in the weather. Chopping boards aren't in the weather, and yes, they do get a little bit of moisture on them, but they're not submerged in water. And if you've got a solid timber chopping board, you should never, ever, ever, ever put it in a dishwasher because it'll ruin it. So first of all, you've got to work out what's... Oh, good morning, Max. 7.1, that 0.1 just makes a difference, does it, Max? Work out how thick you want your chopping board. Where's that one I heard a second ago? Okay. So finished size on this is 36, 37. From memory, I cut that at about 43. And the reason you lose so much is when you laminate them together, if you're a millimetre out, say you get, where's the, here you are, a couple of bits here. Say you glue them together and they're not nice and flush there. There's a millimetre. That's a millimetre high. So when you plane it, you're going to lose a millimetre, but on the other side, it's going to be a millimetre out too. So you're not just losing 1 mil, you're actually losing 2 mil. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you're cutting out your original sizes. I like mine to be between 35 to 40 mil. And that's why I cut this one at 42. It's a little bit narrower than what I wanted, but I'm stuck with it and it's a good chopping board. The other thing is to take into consideration is the weight. The thicker it is, obviously, the heavier it's going to be. So, let me see what we can do. Nathaniel! Oh, I don't know about that, but thank you, Nathaniel. I'll take the compliment anyway. Oh, dear. Okay. I'm going to be using black wattle again. And what I want to do with this is do a pinstripe. So, I've got one here. Here's one. Oh, dear. This one's already gone. Oh, it's heavy. If you can see that, it's... I just oiled it the other day. It's actually going out to a client. But it's Tasmanian oak, even though it doesn't look that. It looks more like blackwood. It's Tasmanian oak. And these lines in here, they're actually stringers of Jarrah veneer. And that there is where it was left wet on the saw table, and that's the tannin in the timber. So be very, very mindful when you're working with any type of timber. If it's damp, don't put it near metal because there's a very good chance that it will have tannin in it, and if it does, it'll go black, which isn't a huge issue. You can generally sand it out. But that one's, yeah, it doesn't matter quite so much because of the deal that is being done for that. So I'll show you how to do that. What I'm going to be using, I want to get white stripes in here. So what I've decided, I could use white timber, such as silver ash or hoop pine. They'd be the main ones I'd use. Oak, maybe, American oak. But for me, hoop pine and silver ash, I have quite a bit of, and they're not exactly very expensive veneers, so I'm not worried about it. But if I do one with expensive veneers, obviously it bangs the price of the chopping board up. But if you're making it just for a loved one or for a present, it doesn't matter about the cost, does it? What I'm going to be using is this stuff here, which I thought was pretty cunning, actually. This is called aromatic cedar, and if you can see, I've got to tell you, when it's up here, oh, the smell of it, that's why it's called aromatic cedar, because it is, oh, it's gorgeous. Anyway, but you can see it's got sapwood there, which is cream. So all I need is just that one edge. So what I'm going to do, because I've got a fair amount of this, is I'm going to cut a length off, and then I'll rip it on the table saw so I've got both colours, which means on the upside it's going to be cream, and on the downside it'll be red. So that's an interesting way of doing things. Whoa. Parting chisel. So let's go. Okay, over to the saw. Got any questions? If not, I'm down to the saw. 5.8. Oh, heat wave, Mr. Bacon. Laurie, g'day, Norfolk pine. Norfolk pine would be okay. Yep. If you got that in a veneer. I will also show you what you can do. If we've got time, we might do 2 boards. But if you can't get veneer, there's still things you can do to pretty your boards up. Okay. Well, Trevor, it was 26 degrees, but I've just turned the air conditioner off. Okay, over to the saw. Let's go. Now, for the interests of videoing and for your viewing pleasure, I don't have the overhead guard on the table saw. Normally it would be there, but you couldn't see anything. But it does have a riving knife, and I'll talk to you about that when I get over there, because it is imperative you've got a riving knife on your table saw, especially when you're using this stuff. Or I found it with Tassie oak as well, because it'll actually jam, and if it jams, it can pinch your blade, and the blade can throw the timber back at you, and that can cause serious injury. So that's the reason I don't have the cover over the top of the saw, but the riving knife's in place. So let's go over to the saw. Okay, this is a riving knife. And what can happen, and it happens to me regularly, especially with this timber, because it's under stress and it's a pretty tough timber, as the blade cuts the kerf, the timber will reassert itself and it will close. I'm not going to do it. And so when you get to here, your kerf has actually come together, pinches, and then all of a sudden the blade will dig in where it's pinched and it'll throw it back at you at a great rate of knots. So that's how easy that knife is to fit. The saw I'm using is a Laguna Platinum Dovetail, I think it is. And I think all their fittings on the Laguna saws are the same. This is the guard that I would normally use, and much the same for fitting. There you go. And then it's got anti-kickback knives here as well. As you can see, you can't see much with that, so I'll take that off for this project. I remember I used to have an old Woodfast Universal. I had it for years. And to take that off, you had to take the plate off, and then you had to undo 4 bolts, and then you had to, it was a pain. So these quick release things are good. And the thing with quick releases is, if it's easy to do, you'll do it. But if it's a nuisance, you go, oh no, I'll worry about that later. And you don't do it, and you lend yourself to all sorts of dramas. So, I was ripping some last night. I'll see if I can get it pretty close to the same size. And here we go. So what I did with mine, obviously I machined it and then ripped it into these lengths, which I think are around 85 or something. 90, there you go. And now I'm going to recut them or resaw them down to a finished size of 43. And there's a little, just a little tip for you. When you've got this ruler, I don't know if you can see it from there, but on the fence, there's a ruler with a guide. Unless you're going to change the position of the marker every time you change your blade, which is a nuisance, measure the size you want. So I'll measure, what did I say I wanted? 43. Okay. That's got to be pretty close. Yep. Okay, so that's 43. If I look down here on my guide, it's actually 42. And the reason is I'm using a very thin blade. If I go back to a normal blade that's got a 3mm kerf on it, this is not going to be accurate again. So it depends. If you've got one saw blade and that's all you're going to use, fine, go by the ruler down here. But if you're like me and you use several saw blades, trust the measuring tape, not the guide down here. The other thing, which I've spoken about before, if you want a particular width, measure from the inside of the blade to the fence. That will give you the width you need. If you need a particular size rebate, say you're using a dado saw or you're going to go over to the router but you want a cut line to work to on a rebate, measure to the outside of the saw because that will then become part of your rebate. All right, enough of that, let's go. Dusty out. Oh, before I do that, particularly because I haven't got a guard on, eye protection and ear protection are very important. I had an experience the other day, luckily I had eye protection on. A loose bit of timber came flying out and hit me right on the cheek. No, it didn't, it hit me right on the lens. So, good pair of, these are eye muffs. You can get them from Carbotech too. George, if you're watching, mate. Okay, let's see how we're going for central. That's not too bad. And a push stick. You can either buy one or make one. Saves your fingers, saves a lot of problems. I don't really have to clean that bit up if I didn't want to, because what I would do, see how I've got white there? I don't really want that, so I'm going to cut this way. If you can get them the same width, it is easier when you do a glue up. See, look at that one, it's just slightly smaller. because some of these, I was sure when I've cut them, they haven't been 100% accurate. But what I've got there, I'll stop the saw. Is what I was talking about. That is actually stuck on the riding knife. So even though it's not as classic as it can be, that is actually pinched together. So when I ride it up there, see, it won't even go, that's jammed there, which means it's pinching here. If I was to turn the saw on, it would throw it back to me. Riving knife, great idea. What I have seen done in the past, and even done it in the past, if I haven't got a riving knife, when I get past the blade, I'll get an old chisel and put it in the slot to hold it apart. A bit more to go. There didn't seem to be much rubbish in that lot. I'll show you some that and they're down here. The blade stops. Okay, so that's a natural edge, which I might even put that on a chopping board at one stage. That's a piece that I can't use because it's got a branch coming through it, and the same with that. That's got some shakes and inclusions in it. So it's not a waste of time because you can use it for something else, but definitely not in a chopping board. Now the other thing is, I like to have an uneven number. What I'm going to do is take this, we're not using all this on one chopping board. I'll take it back over to the bench. There we go. Oh, there's one I haven't cut. Now that's another one that obviously I can't use for that, but I'll be able to use it for something. That one I didn't cut, so I'll have to rip that one up later on. So what I'm going to go through here now is just, I don't know, pick some nice bits out. Most of my boards, I think they got 15 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, oh that's got 16, which is unusual because I don't normally like an even number in the board. And I'll show you why shortly. Oh, that's interesting. I've got some out in the yard. A friend of mine's got a tree lopping business. He said, oh, I just cut down a big hoop pine. Oh, I went and had a look at it and dropped the ripsaw through it. Had a big pink centre. So I'm guessing it wasn't hoop pine. I'm thinking it must have been Norfolk. Okay, they're all pretty close to being even. And if you can see, I've got some real white bits in here, which I don't particularly want in this one. So I'll take those bits out. I'll make another chopping board with them. What have we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4. I've got to have 11 I'm looking for. If I can keep all about the same colour, it'd be good. So there's 2, 4, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so they're pretty well uniformed in their colour. That one might be a bit of a ring-in. Let's see if we've got another darker one there. There you go. That's not too bad. There's a little bit of a twig there, but that'll feel okay. It's not going all the way through. Oh, good on you, Laurie. Post a pic if you like. Okay. Okay. So we'll put these to one side at the moment. And I'll use them. Actually, no, I'll use those for another board. Okay, where's that veneer? Oh. So what I need is, you can see how that's all blonde up there. That's the one I want to use. I'm just looking for the best end. Actually, I think this end will do. That will do nicely. And that's there. Give me a pencil of some description. I go through that many pencils here. I think the mice come in and pinch them during the night. Where is... I haven't even got it in my pencil case. Aha! I've got one of these jazzy things. Okay. So I want them to be that long. So I'll just go over to the drop saw and cut that. I'll be back in a tick. And I think we'll go to the, there you go. We'll go to the table saw and I'll just rip the same thickness we were ripping that other timber to. I read this one up while I'm there. And there we have it. All that nice white stuff. That's red on the bottom. So we'll see how we go. That's all you can do is try, isn't it? Okay. Now, paper, that's what I want. This is baking powder I use. It's great because glue doesn't stick to it. And it's relatively inexpensive. What do I want? Some clamps. Yeah, these will do. Another thing I find handy, especially when you're doing a glue up, is I used to use masking tape, but it got to be a bit of a hassle taking it off. If you take it off as soon as you're finished, you're okay, but I'm not that well organised. And so it's not until I need to use the clamps again that I realise, oh, hang on, I haven't taken the masking tape off. And you know what masking tape's like, once it's been on there too long, it just will not come off easily. So again, I'll use baking paper. There we go. To lay over the bars and the clamps. That way when the glue drips on it, it drips on the paper and not on the clamp, and the clamps work far more effectively. So I'm sure you've all had the experience when you're trying to adjust a clamp, but it's got glue on it and therefore it won't run smoothly. Gets very frustrating because you just realise that after you've glued the job up, and it holds you up. Meanwhile, the glue's going off. So I find if I do this little bit of prep beforehand, it saves me a lot of heartache later on. Okie dokie. So what I'm going to do is I've done something else here, which I did last night, and I've just introduced some other timbers. So this is Tasmanian oak. Oh no, that's blackwood. That's Tasmanian oak. I'm hoping it's going to show up a little bit differently once we glue it. That's Chilean myrtle. That's Tassie oak. And then these strips in between are actually Jarrah. So it's going to go the white and then we're going to go to the red. in the middle. I'm hoping. So that I will join in shortly. So at the moment we need to get, so what have I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 11's 15. So I need to have 7 aside. So that means that's got to be 6. One lot's got to be 6. And then the other one will be 7. Move these in a bit. Another thing, depending how you're going to go, it's really good practice to get the grain running in the same direction. Because if you've got a normal thicknesser, a 3-blade, and particularly the blackwood, if you've got the grain running the wrong way, you will get tear out. You can minimise the tear out by putting a skew cut on it, that is, not putting it in straight but running it through at an angle. But sometimes you'll still get tear out. Or if you decide, oh, I'm going to hand plane this. And sometimes situations arise where you have to hand plane it. So if you've got all the grain direction going the same way, a lot easier to hand plane. So that's going that way. That's cranky bit, that can go that way. It is a cranky bit too. Cranky bits, you just got to take it on the chin, I'm afraid. That's those. And it's good practice for reading grain. And then if you get into the chatoyance of timber, you're going to get the same glow all the way up until the board gets used, of course, and it gets scratched. So I've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's it. Okay. Now, where's the grain running on this one? That way. So that's going to have to go there, like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's why I like it to be uneven, because I can have a feature strip in the middle. If you go even numbers, you've got to have a double one, which, I don't know, doesn't work for me, but that's it. All right. Now, how I glue these up is, you got to think. Okay, I'll show you. This one here, the first one, I roll back towards myself. The other ones I roll away from myself, so when I glue it, I'm rolling it back on, and that way the grain will stay the same. With the veneers, exactly the same. I've got grain running that way, which means it goes that way. That means that's got to go that way, which means that goes that way. Oh, you can't do this unless you've got a clear head, I tell you. The glue, as I said before, I'm using is Type Bond 2. And it works well because I put this top on last night. Evidently didn't clean the screw thread out well enough. It's always good to have a bucket handy. In there I've got a rag, and all I use are these really cheap fibre brushes. I think they're pastry brushes. go. That's all it is. Nothing flash, nothing fancy. And they just last. What I've also done with this is I've diluted it. Now, according to the jar, it says you can dilute by with 10% water. I find that's way too thin. All I want to do is get it thin enough so it'll spread easily without having to really push it, and it's not too thick. Now, the other thing, when you water glue down, it also delays the drying time because you've got a lot more moisture in there. Let's see, what can you see here? There you go. So I double glue, which means I've got glue on that side. Then I'll put glue on this one. And I'll put glue on a piece of veneer. Get any dags in there. And I bring that over onto there. Give it another coat of glue on that side. A couple of reasons. One, again, it's double gluing, but also you will find if you just put glue on one side of the veneer, it'll curl up, which isn't ideal. The thing with using this dual colour veneer is you've got to remember which way the blonde side goes. Make sure it always goes the same way. There's nothing more annoying than to finish a job and then look at it and go, oh no, one of those is in backwards. And you can see the reason for the baking powder. It gets quite messy. Yeah, look, even, I don't know if you can get radiata pine in a veneer, but even radiata pine will do. I use a lot of Jarrah because it's a nice contrasting dark colour. But if you're making say a chopping board out of hoop pine or something similar, you could then use blackwood, or you could use Queensland walnut, or, you know, just a contrasting colour. Okay, I'm going to have to think in a minute. Not good at that on Saturday mornings. Yuck. All right. Okay, now we'll put that middle bit in. And I've just got to, ooh, getting glue all over my swanky paring chisel. Don't really want to do that. If you can keep the parts that you're working to a uniformed width, again, it's a lot easier. Yeah, it will move on you, there's no doubt about that. but you're not in so much pain. Let me see. Now, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got to be 6. Which way is that one going? It's going. Oh, that's right. Yep, 6. So I've got to put one there, don't I? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. All right. So if I do that, and which way is that going to go? So this is where you got to think. It's going to go that way, which means that way. Or does it go that way? Let me have a... Oh, go. Yeah, all right. That's the way we'll do it. Where's my brush? Here we go. Now, okay. Don't land on their fly because you could get into all sorts of trouble. That has got a little bit of glue on it that dried last night, which we don't want because that'll prevent us getting a good seal. Okay, so now that goes there. All right. And then this one goes, I'm making a mess. Okay, now we're back on track. That one goes there. So that means I can pick those up like that. Wait a minute. Yeah, that one's going that way. Right. So there's a lot more, it's like boxes. People say, oh no, I'll make a box. There is a lot more to making a well thought out box than meets the eye, and there's a lot more going into making a well thought out chopping board than meets the eye. So you can, as I said in the introduction, there's a lot of cheap chopping boards around, and yeah, they'll do the job, no dramas. But they're just sort of either done by machine or done by labourer that's not thinking about the context of, you know, colour and shade and direction of grain and stuff like that. And I think, unfortunately, that's something that's sadly missing in things that are made today because everything's so automated. I've said the story before about I used to manage quite a large furniture making factory, and I asked one of the guys to, I gave him a raised panel. I said, oh, can you go and put that in the door? And he put it in the door, and I went and had a look, and it was a cathedral cut, so the grain was going like that. And he put it in upside down. I said, oh, you put it in the wrong way. He said, what difference does it make? It's in. And yet, there could be the difference between a piece of furniture that sells or wins you an award and a piece of furniture that doesn't. And it's just the detail, looking, thinking, expressing. Gee, I'm getting lyrical this morning. I'll have a look at the chat in a minute. There we go. And when you're doing a glue up like this, it's good to have a little bit extra time with the glue so it doesn't set while you're doing what I'm doing here, because this takes a bit of time. And I don't know if you've noticed, but you're actually doing a chopping board that's twice the size that it actually is, because you've got to double glue the timber and you're also double gluing the veneer. And again, you could, if you wanted, you just put the veneer between the two bits, but it comes back to what I was saying before, having pride in your work and confidence that it's never going to fall apart. So even though this is 0.6 of a mil, it still needs to be treated as if it was a full piece of timber, which to me veneer is. I mean, it's just, there's no difference. It's just thin, but it's still the same type of timber as I'm using if I'm building a cabinet. Nearly there on the home stretch. If there's any woodwork related questions, fire away, and when I've finished doing this, I'll do my best to answer them. And glue actually becomes a factor to consider when you're doing this type of thing, because glue costs money and you're using twice the amount of glue, so it does actually factor in. I'm trying to get them as close as even as possible, but I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it because I'm going to trim it to size afterwards. Okay. And the lucky last bit. So I said before about getting the grain in the right direction. If you're lucky enough to have a helix cutter on your thicknesser, it's not such an issue because you get minimal tear out with that. Okay. Now, everyone hold their mouths the right way. And we'll see if we can get this down in one go without breaking. That was pretty close to one go. Which bit did we lose? That bit. There you go. Let's pull that baking paper out again. Okay, now we can even it up and push it all down so all the timber and veneer are level. This way you're going to get at least one edge level. Doesn't matter if the other one's out, you can live with that. But push it all the way through. And again, getting back to what I said, if you've got everything the same size, if it's going to be level at one on this side, it's going to be fairly level on the other side. Okay. Finish with the brush. Just chuck it in the bucket. And it'll be good for next. I've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 brushes in here, I think. And they just stay in there. Some of them have been there that long, they've turned black. But it's all good. Okay. Now I'm going to get 2 other lengths. And wrap paper around that. I used to skimp on it and go, oh no, I won't make it too long. And then you find out it's too short and you can't use it. It's a consumable. And if you're sneaky, Trevor, you just nick it out of the kitchen, then you don't even have to buy it. But don't let anybody know. Okay, now I'm going to have this as a sacrificial support, or a caul, if you like. Because if I just put pressure on these end ones, there's a chance all I'm going to do is get a nice tight bond there, and I'll put one down the middle. Whereas if I have another piece here, it seems to spread the load more even. The fly's got a death wish. It just keeps hanging around the glue pot. All right, now. Got one more. Is that going to fit in there? Oh dear. I think that'll do. La da da dum, bum ba da bum. Okay. Put that. I'll have to just squeeze it up a little bit. All I'm doing here, I'm not clamping it, I'm just squeezing it up a bit, just so I can get this other caul in. There we go. we go. Now I can tighten it up. Make sure it's still relatively flat. Now before I put that other one on, I'm going to wash a lot of that glue off. Again, this makes it easier when it comes to machining, or if you're going to hand plane it, it's much easier to do without great big gobs of glue everywhere. That middle section I did, that's a bit of a drama, but not a huge drama, it's just got the veneer hanging up there. I'll give you a look at that. And don't be afraid to use water. If you've got that clamped strong enough, very little water is going to go into those joints, I can assure you. Okay, now I'll get another clamp and whack it in the middle for diddle. That's another thing to watch out for, is when you're putting clamps, I've just wet that down, okay? When you're putting clamps on wet timber like that, if I let it touch the timber and left it, I would end up with a great big black mark where the steel touched the timber. And again, it depends on the species, but don't take the risk. Takes nothing to put something underneath there, and then you don't get the chemical reaction between the metal and the tannin in the timber. And if you look, when I tighten that one up, glue has started to creep up. So that tells me that even though I've got clamps either side, the middle wasn't clamped as securely as the two ends. Okay, so now we'll turn it upside down. Ugh. And I'm just going to make it easy on myself. Just wash. Make it easy on myself, he says. And just wash that. Let's see what we got there. Wash this glue out from the middle. Look, it doesn't have to be 100%. It's not that critical, but it does save a little bit of wear and tear on your blades, and also gives you a little bit of a flatter surface on which to work. Notice how I didn't use the preposition at the end of a sentence, and instead of saying it makes it easier to work on, no. Who learnt that stuff at school? Never end a sentence with a preposition. I don't know why, people got the message all right. Now you can see quite clearly there the white pinstripe showing through, and that is going to look absolutely amazing once it's been cleaned up. And then we've got red ones where we've got the lighter timber. And on the other side, because we use that, we don't have, well, you can't see it so much, but we don't have white stripes. We have a pink stripe coming through. So I'm just going to put that to one side. And I'll come back and have a chat, and then I'll show you how we finish one off. Oh. Wherever it is, oh, there it is. Crap. crash, bang, wallop. Oh, look at that, cup of coffee time. Oh. But to do that glue up, I used a whole jar of glue. Now you can keep this and use it again, but honestly, not worth the hassle. Okay, put the bucket down before I knock it down. Where are we? I'm just going to have a chat now. That's why I'm looking down there. I should have it. I wonder. Oh, hang on. I can do this. Bear with me. I'll just change the chat around. That way I can... I've lost my mouse. There it is. Go away. There we go, got that one there. And then I can bring that one up there. I'm just trying to... There we go. Oh, look at that. Okay. Now I can look down there instead of having to look over there now. Okay, let me have a look. Oh, how far back are we going? Good morning, Louise. Okay, I'm going back about 40 minutes in the chat. I've obviously been concentrating. Morning, Louise. Look forward to catching up whenever we catch up. Who ate the pencil? I know. I don't. Oh, look at that. There's one. It was hiding on my desk the whole time. Whoops. Let's put that up there. And I'm getting pretty low on that. That's all right. I bought some more. I get that from Coles, by the way. You can't buy that size from Coles. You can buy this size. So it's about 50 metres. I think they're about $10 or $12 or something, but it saves your bench top big time. Got a bit of an argument with someone today. They said not to argue with my betters. I said I wasn't arguing. I tell you what, Andy, I like the one, if you argue with an idiot, all of a sudden there's two idiots arguing. That has saved me a lot of grief. You've just got to remember that. Baking. Did I say powder? Paper. Did I say powder again? Did I? Trev. When you put your mind to whatever you do, it turns out perfect. Oh, if that was only the case, Max. I laughed at a bloke my age who had dyed his hair jet black, but not his eyebrows and his beard. He got upset. I told him it wasn't. People dear. Yeah, people, why do it? Why do it? Go old disgracefully, that's what I say. Andy's having the cuppa. All right, we're there. Is there any way to revive PVA glue that's not been used for 18 months? No, Andy, chuck it in the bin. Oh, look, you can put water with it and try and revitalise it, but quite frankly, if you haven't used it for 18 months, you haven't missed it, so chuck it in the bin. I go through a fair amount of that when I'm doing chopping boards, and there's another one there, and oh, there we go. And there's one for the beehives. And these, I think I had this one for, gee whiz, nearly 12 months, I think, but it wasn't open. And so when I opened it, it was as fresh as a day. I got it. But sometimes the trick is with PVA, I think, don't leave a little bit in there. If it's full to there, it's generally okay. It's when you get down to the little bits, and don't let the air in. If you've got these type of caps that Type Bond have, keep it shut. And if you're using one of the others, Selleys, Gorilla Glue, trying to think of any of the others, make sure that the cap's screwed on so the air doesn't get to them, because it's the air that sends the glue off. Okay. You've had it. Oh, Andy, there's no pulling the wool over your eyes, is there? Yeah, this one too. Here you go. This one too. For those that don't know, that's my trademark. Whenever I do a chopping board, they rattle. And Louise, yes, I know, you'd love to know. Oh dear, isn't it fun? Just my little idiosyncratic things. And it's good if you can come up with something a little bit different. It sets you apart, and it's a novelty value. And then people go, oh, that's nice. Oh, check this out. I remember I had a commission for dining room tables and chairs that sat 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 people, but it could sit 14. It was a big, huge, long dining room table for a client on Norfolk Island, no, not Norfolk Island, Lord Howe Island. And I made a couple of pens. This was before pen making was popular. I made a couple of pens out of the timber, and everyone came around to see the dining room suite. And the people I made it for, they were more interested in showing them the pens that I'd made rather than showing off the dining room suite. So, hey, go figure. It's nice to have a little thing. Yeah, hey, Trevor, at least you got something in your head. Shake mine or square blind, there's nothing sometimes. Nowadays, thoughts are thrown out the door. It's the case to just get the job done. Yeah, I'm with you, Max, on that one. It's a pity. Hey, John, how are you? Thanks for dropping in. Hope you are well. Oh, thanks for that, Laurie. I will have a look. I don't know how to get it from my Facebook page to the stream, or else I'd say, put it in the stream. There is a way you can do it. I think actually if you put a link in the speech box to wherever you posted it, people can go and check it out. So do that if you want, Laurie. I'll tell you, no, I'll have a look. Let me have a look. See if I can get there without messing everything up. It's good, but you know, you can see people's work. It's lovely. Makes me feel quite inadequate, I've got to tell you. Some of the work people put up is beautiful. Okay, let's go here. Oh, there. I'm just loading. Oh, go away. I can't get to it. I'll check it out later, later, Laurie. If for whatever reason it keeps on wanting to send me to a, whatever you may call it, page. A business page, which I don't really want at this time, but I will look at it. Yeah, I'm with you, Max. What was that one I've seen before? I used to be young and stupid. Now I'm not young anymore. You gotta have fun. Yeah, no, Andy, I'd just jettison it and buy some new stuff. I'm sure there'd most likely be a hardware shop or timber place that'll donate some to you. Oh, that's good, John. Good to hear it. Wow. Be like the Ponderosa over there with all those horses now. Yeah, that was, I'll tell you who it was. He lived in the Cotswolds. Mouse Man, he was known. I'll give you his name. I used to know it, but it's one of those things you forget. Robert Thompson. I think that's the guy's name. Yep, Robert Thompson. It's actually, oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's lovely. If you go onto his website, the website's called Robert Thompson, or if you put in, Robert Thompson's.co.uk. And yeah, that was his little idiosyncratic thing. You'll find a lot of painters do that, and I know a lot of cartoonists. I'm just trying to get everything back up. Do it, and it's so you can miss it. There used to be a cartoonist store back in the 60s, Rigby, I think his name was, Rigby. And he used to have a little face, all his cartoons, and it became, you'd enjoy the cartoons in the Daily Mirror or Daily Telegraph, I think he was. But it also would be a competition to see who could find his little trademark quicker. So there you go. All right, here's one I cooked earlier. Oh, I did this one last night, and it's a bit of a hybrid, in as much as I've got just bits and pieces of veneer in here, and I've used different timber, and I must have had some Wheaties for breakfast yesterday. Oh, there we go. Click, clack. Any bits of timber you get, these actually came in as packing boards. I bought, well actually it was that aromatic cedar veneer. I bought that and it came in a packing crate, and to use the timber out of the packing crate is great because it's timber for nothing. It's good stuff. Let me get a chisel and just clean that off. Oh. Okay, I just got a little build-up of glue here that hasn't quite gone off, but it's not an issue. I would normally leave this for another day before I dressed it because of that, but if you can see, that's gone yellow. That's only because of the glue that's on there. And also, you can see that it's not dead flat. I did my best to get it flat, but some pieces are a little bit higher than others, only about 1 mil or so, but whatever that is, on this side, it's going to be the same on that side. And yes, Andy, you picked that up. So what we might do is go out to the machinery shop, and I'll put this one through the thickness. And there is a prime example of what I was talking about. I did these last night at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, I suppose. And there is an example of what I'm talking about. The metal was wet because I wiped all the glue or washed all the glue off, and that tannin in the timber is interesting. It's not much happening with the jarrah, but the wattle, it's gone black. Now, that won't be too far. We'll machine that out. But if you leave it on there for a long length of time, it can go quite deep. This part here was down on the clamps, and I had the, here we go, Trevor, the baking paper underneath it, and you can tell I didn't have any issue there. Here on the middle clamp, I didn't have any baking paper, and I've got a couple of marks, but nothing to write home to Mum about. So it's all good. Who had a dog? Oh, he had a dog. Oh, did he? Yeah, that's the trouble, isn't it? You get a good idea. That's why I'm not telling anyone how I do my rattle. And look, it's not difficult. I say it's not difficult. It took me 6 weeks to work out how to do it, so I was happy with it. And yeah, I guess if you really want to know, you've got to buy one and cut it open. But even then, I don't think you'll work out how I did it. Jeff Hook used to place a fish hook in his cartoons in the Herald. Well, there you go. I would have to flatten that by hand. Yeah, look, that's again, that is the reason, Andy, I said, make sure the grain direction is running the same way. That way it is going to be easy to plane. I would plane this by hand, but I'm not going to because I'm going to go over to the machine shop. So we'll go out there. Now, because this is the nicest side, and it was the side down on the clamps, if you remember, I pushed all those other bits down, so that meant this is going to be the flatter side. I'm going to run that on the machine table, so we'll start cleaning this up or dressing this with the thicknesser. And yes, as I said, I don't know if I did say, but I'm fortunate enough to have a helical head on my thicknesser. Actually, I've got the, what is it? Carbotech 20-inch helical cutter. Single phase thicknesser, and it is, honestly, it's a dream. It is a dream. So I'm going to start machining this until I get this flat, then I'll spin it over and I'll dress this side. That's about all we'll talk about at the moment. We'll go out to the thicker nickerser. It gets a bit noisy out there, so there you go. Oh, look at that. I got the door open. I didn't realise. Doesn't matter. It's all good. I'll meet you out there in a second. Now it's going to get noisy. I turned the dusty on, I remembered. Wear those. All right, I'll be back out there. do this at 40 to start with. Just skim it. See how it's going to come up. That's the cleanest side. That's going down the bottom. Not a bad idea to put a bit of candle wax. It's all that easy. It helps it slip. I've turned it over now. Only take little passes. No point in trying to push the machine. Saves a couple of minutes. Pretty close. It's got this little bit here to fix up. Pretty good. A little bit of tear out there around the knot. Got a quarter of a turn. It up. Yep, that's not too bad. Alright, now that's come down to 39, so we lost about 3 mil. Sounds like there's something stuck in that impeller. I'll check that out later on. Oh, all right. So I use the same veneer on this one as I used on the other one. That side, you can't really tell much difference, but when you spin it around this side, you can see the white lines in it, which to me I think is quite nice. That one there just gave me a little bit of a heartache, but it's okay. It's not too bad. So what we can do now is cut it to size. Got to sort of look what you've got, what size do you want, where's the measuring tape, if I can find it. Oh, look at that, it's hanging up on the wall. Someone's been in my workshop and put stuff back. Okay, so that's 500. Got a little bit of a, I think that's just a gum vein there, so I'm not going to lose too much sleep over that. So we might just go over to the saw and give this a trim. Did anyone notice what I did with that pencil? It's still here. Good stuff. So I'll cut that there. And I might just get rid of that. cut that there. So that's going to give me 470 by 300. That's going to be a nice size board. Okay, let's go over to the saw. I keep saying I'm going to get a new mouse. I will one day. Oh. And again, don't push it, take your time. Make sure the blade's free before you start. Everything's locked in place. Let me get some eye and ear protection. Turn the dusty on, saw on. I switched the board over that way I've still got the strain edge here and it'll remain square. Whereas if I'd gone from here and then turned it upside down and used this edge, it could be a little bit out and I'd end up with a parallelogram, which I don't really want. But what I did do was I should have drawn the line on this side. Now what you can do, until that stops, is you can keep these if you want, and there's other things you can do with it which I will discuss in a later video. All right, there we have it. Now it's got a bit of gunk there that needs a, where's the, it's got a little bit of gunk on the edges, which you can either put over a sander or on a jointer, or just for you, Andy, I'll use a hand plane. Oh. Ugh. Fine one. Oh dear. I'll try this one. See how we go. Well, he's a little cranky, that. I know it's square, so I don't have to shoot it. So what I might do is just, we'll have a go with the block plane, see how that goes. Oh, get a little bit of wax. Let's see. it's cranky. Oh, it's cranky. No, I'm thinking this is going to be a sanding job. Oh, wait a minute. Still getting a bit of tear out with that. Yeah, it's too cranky. She's going to be a sanding job. But what I'll do first, I think, is I'll put an edge on it. If you want to see me use the router. Medico's on standby. And might just route an edge around it. You've got choices. Right, it's smooth enough for me to get a router around it, yeah. A lot of people go for the round over. I personally, I like, again, it's being different, I like to have a mitre on mine. So I think we might go over to the router table and I'll set it up and I'll cut a mitre on it. This one I'm going to have as one-sided. A lot of chopping boards you can have so it's double-sided if you want. This could be double-sided, but I think I'm going to make this just so it's single-sided. And what I'll do is I'll end up screwing rubber feet on there so it'll sit on your bench like that. But all right, let's go over to the router and I'll set it up and we will see what happens. It's always fun going to the router live. I hope you're not getting motion sickness. How's that? That looks good. You can tell I only just decided to do this because I've got stuff all over the router. Ah, that's good. At least you know it's all real and not orchestrated. Speaking of which, I'm just checking the microphone batteries to see how we're going. All right, I think I'm going all right. Oh dear. Now, what did I say I was going to do? There you go, that's the one I want. That one there. Again, just by putting a mitre on it, it's, again, just a little difference. It makes it a point of difference to everyone else's. You'll get people who go, oh, I don't like a mitre, I want it round. Well, that's fine too. Doesn't matter. But it's interesting, the feedback I've got from people that have my chopping boards is they like the fact because it's got a mitre on it. With these two, when I put the router bits in, I don't let them sit right down on the collet because sometimes they have a flange like that and you think the router's home, but it's actually locked on the flange. And I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but it's not a nice feeling when you realise all of a sudden the router bit is working its way out of the chuck. It not only ruins your job, if it comes out, it'll ruin your life as well. Whoops. Now you can do this with a handheld router. The reason I'm using this router is because I've got a dust extractor on it and it's not as messy. Whereas if I use a hand router, it makes a bit of a mess. I'll work out how far up the board I want it to go. So this is roughly the same sort of stock. Okay, so we'll drop that down a bit. You can always come back and take a bigger bite if you want to. Very hard to put it back on once it's come off. Okay, I think that will do. The other thing I do is, I mean, you can run the board straight on that bearing, but I much prefer to have a fence there. It just gives me a little bit more stability. So I'll move the job up to the bearing and then just rub a bit of timber across it. I can see the bearing turning and I'm also touching the fence. Because the less blade you're exposed to, the safer you are. Now I'm not going to do this in one pass. That machine is capable of it, but by doing it in one pass you can also rip out timber, which isn't a good look and it's not something we're trying to achieve. I do the end grain first, because if I'm going to get tear out or chip out, it's going to be on the end grain. So when I come through, it's going to blow out this portion here. Let me just move that milk crate. Which does look unsightly, but when I come down this side, it cleans that up. If I do this side first and then I go get blowout on the end grain, I really haven't got anywhere to go. Okay, here we go. And I'm just going to do this on the top of this one. And I'm not going to do the full cut. So I'm going to come in about 1/4 inch away. You can hear it labouring. That's not like taking a full cut. There's the chip out I'm talking about. And that's the next cut's going to be a little bit deeper. So now I can go in for the full wet cut. And that's looking quite nice. Same on the other side. First cut, just away from the fence. Ready for the chip out, here it comes. Blow out. Oh, I can see that. Now I've same on the long ones. I'll do a short pass. What I do, I come away from the fence, and then once I'm got onto the next fence, I have the board at an angle, and I can use this part as a point of contact and swivel this part in. So I'm still not taking a full cut, but I'm in contact with the fence. I'll come back to a full one. Going on the other side. Come away from the fence, start the cut, and tilt it so you're touching the fence on the other side. And just sort of feather it. Onto the cutter. So now I'll go back and do a full cut. Go back and do it again because I felt the hand move. And there you have it. Go back to the bench. Oh, yeah, I'll just bring that other camera over. My clock died. Not very good. Ah, what did I do? I went over there to bring the other camera back, and my digital clock died. And then I forgot what I went there for. So hang on, let me just bring this one back over here. How's that looking? There you go. It's looking pretty all right. So what I'm going to do now is just give it a quick sand. I'm going to most likely try 100 grit first. It shouldn't need much of a sand, but it'll just take the knife marks out. Because if you don't sand it and then you oil it, what happens is the oil will show up the marks. So let's go. What have we got here? Duncan me nuts! G'day, mate! Let me go back here. And wait till he good on you, Max. Is it worth honestly, Duncan, it depends. I'm not a fan of them. I don't like them, and I'll explain why. Because it's two machines, invariably you will have the jointer set up for XYZ, and then you'll use the thicknesser. And you could, I don't know, have something go wrong with the thicknessing part of the operation. Then you've got to go back and do the jointing. But you've changed the jointing settings because you've moved the fence, because you flipped the machine over. If it's a question of space and you are limited in space, yep, for sure, 100%. Better to have a 2-in-1 than not having one or the other. But if you've got the space, I would recommend getting the two machines. And the other thing is, if for whatever reason the machine goes down and it has to be repaired, you've lost two machines. If you've got two separate machines and one of them goes, you've still got the other one that you can work with. So that's just my humble opinion on it. Why will you use? I'll get up there again. I have been using. I've been very, very busy actually. I just haven't been doing many videos. Yeah, I don't know. I think my dust extractor out there. I should put the decibel meter. Hang on, where's my phone? I did have a decibel meter in here, just out of interest. I'll see what that is. That's if I have it. No, it's not there. I must have dumped it. I've got a separate decimal meter up the house because I wanted to know how badly the... Oh, here we go, sound meter. Okay, I'm just going to go next door and we'll see how noisy that dust extractor is. Wait a minute. No, well, it's not good, but it's not as bad as I thought. It's 78 decibels. So there you go. All right, let me just sand these. I'm just going to take the edge off the top as well. And I'm just going to arras the edge because that's very sharp around there. And that really is done. It's got a couple of little things I have to fill. Now you could use wax to fill it. Some of that Timbermate filler, which is natural stuff. I don't think it's food grade, but it's only a little bit that you're going to be putting in. So I really don't think it's anything to worry about. The other thing I'm going to do, obviously, is put my brand on it, which is going to go here. So what I thought I might do is we'll get a bit of tape and I will wax half of it so you can see what it's going to look like when it's all finished. And then I'll share one more idea with you, and that'll be that. Actually, I think I like it there. Okay. Oh, don't you love this tape that's no good? What are we saying about Andy? Oh, glue. My bane is just masking tape. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's not. Okay. So let's just do that. The feel of that, I'm not going to go any more than 100. That seems quite satisfactory. What I'm using here, this is a mineral oil. And let me see which is going to give you the best camera view. That one, I think. There you go. Find a piece of rag. That's easy. That's easier said than done. Up. I was using this today, so it's all right. And you have a look at that, the way that end grain's coming up. Dear. Now I'll leave that soak in, and then I'll give it another hit in a day, and maybe another the day after that. But once it's in and it's dry and it's been buffed, it is going to look pretty special, I reckon. And there you have it. So you can see the end grain, the oil's soaking in pretty well. So I'm going to have to give that a bit more, coat. But honestly, that's going to be a beautiful chopping board. And I won't tell you what I'll sell it for, but it's for sale, and it won't last very long. But it's just a little bit of innovation, and you're doing a little bit different to this one, which is still a nice chopping board, but very, very bland. When you put the two of those together, I know which one I'd prefer. And this one, I didn't use veneer on every one. I just broke it up to make it a little bit different. What I'm going to do with this one, if I had time, I was going to do it. I've got, this is over the top, but I've got it so I could use it. I'm going to put a bit of ebony on the end, and then between the ebony, I'm going to take this natural edge off. Between the ebony and the board, I'm going to lay a white strip, then a red strip, then a white strip again, and it'll just have 3 pinstripes, and it will lift the board so much. I don't know how many I've got on this one. Okay, this has got 2. If you look here, there's ebony, and then there's some silver ash, and then there's some jarrah. Which way am I going? I'm going on the wrong one, aren't I? There you go. Okay, this is a strip of solid ebony, and then there's silver ash, and then some jarrah, and then black wattle. Here you've just got silver ash both sides of the jarrah, and then there's jarrah in between all the other ones. That's coachwood, that's jarrah, that's blackwood. Yeah. So it's amazing what you can do just by using your imagination and using offcuts. The other thing you could do quite easily would be if you've got, it doesn't matter what it is. This possibly isn't the best example of it, but if you've got 2 different timbers. Now there I've got Tasmanian oak and blackwood. So if I went Tasmanian oak, blackwood, Tasmanian oak, blackwood, I'm not using veneers, just using different coloured timbers. Try and have a little bit of symmetry about it. If you're not going to go symmetrical, make sure it's definitely asymmetrical. So it is, obviously, it's not meant to be balanced. There's nothing worse than having nearly all symmetry and then one bit's out, it just doesn't look right. So if you're going to go asymmetrical, make it asymmetrical. If you're going to go symmetrical, make it symmetrical. Use whatever you've got around the place. Now the hint I will give you, with using 2 different timbers, I used to do a board when I think, what was it? Meranti and Tassie oak. Now, the Meranti obviously is a lot softer than Tassie oak, and I made the board and it looked absolutely fantastic. But then within a year, it had corrugations where the Meranti had actually shrunk and the Tassie oak hadn't. So then all I did was put it through the thicknesser, even it out, and that was about 4 years ago. And no, it'd be more than that. Might be 5, 6 years ago. And it's not a drama anymore. So just be mindful of that. If the timbers do shrink at a different rate, you might have to redress the board down the track. But honestly, if you gave something like that to someone as a wedding present, their grandkids would still be using it. So there we go. Any questions? Oh. Yeah, that's a good use for it. Andy, you make things out of offcuts, I do. Trouble is, I started making musical instruments, and do you know how smaller pieces you can use in musical instruments? I had to bite the bullet. I've got, outside the back door, I don't know, there's heaps of timber, but it's just got to all go. Ah. There's all sorts of stuff in there too. It's all nice stuff. Where's my... There it is. Sorry, Max, do you leave the room for a while? Was that when I was on the router? Had to have been. Oh, dear. Trevor, hey, Steve, what about Ken Maynard? I know he used to live. No, it doesn't ring a bell. Russ Maynard, I used to work with years ago. That's true, Jared, you should. Always turn off and unplug the router when adjusting. I didn't. I apologise. I should have. Yes, I love it. Love the sound, Trevor. It is. It's really nice. Oh, you better kick off, Andy. I'll catch you later, mate. I'm about ready to take off myself. Panda, g'day, mate. Oh, you got me on the tail end. So anyway, that's it. If there's no more questions, once more, I'd like to thank Carbotech for allowing me the opportunity of using their channel to share some ideas with. I hope you found them useful. If you're new, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. I'm not the only, I was going to say talented. I don't think I'm talented. I'm not the only woodworker. There are more talented woodworkers on there than me. Olivia's on next week with carving, so if you're into carving and carving chisels, she's terrific to watch, a wealth of information, and they put on all sorts of other people as well. I'll be back for Carbotech on the first Saturday in July. Hang on, let me see when that is. Someone will tell me before I find it, I'm sure. Okay, 4th of July, I'll be doing another Carbotech stream. I hope to be doing some more streams on my channel down the track, so I hope to catch you there. But as I said, if you're new, please hit the subscribe button to Carbotech and like them, then you'll know when some of the other great creative people are on and you can get some ideas. If you have no further questions, I guess that's it. I can feel the coffee calling me. Have fun, explore, experiment, create. That's my best advice, I think. I said to my wife the other day, I just wish I'd started doing what I'm doing now a lot earlier, but evidently it wasn't the time, or else I would have started earlier. So in the meantime, before we meet again, and I look forward to having your company in the workshop, at the workbench, I bid you good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and good night. I'll catch you all later on. Stay good. Be kind to each other, enjoy what you're doing, be creative, and don't be so critical about yourself, because many a mistake has ended up being an absolute magic piece of whatever it is you're making. I know that the things that I was thrown in the garbage bin and gone and got back later on have worked out better than I originally started, so don't be too hard on yourself. Catch you all later on. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.